Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
prepare to be astonished.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Young Prophets Podcast. My name's Justin Allen. I'll be your host for today. I work with the Ministries of Global Awakening. To my left, I've got the one, the only John Rolfe in the house.
Good to be with you today, Justin.
Good to see you, man. I think we've got some fun stuff going on today. Good stuff in store later on in the broadcast and throughout the entirety of it. John's going to be making the magic happen behind the scenes. He's responsible for the visual and the audio, and I just talk. So I'm excited today. I've got some friends of mine joining us from Nashville, Tennessee, and that's exciting. I spent a little bit of time in Nashville. It's good to have some Tennessee people. There it is. Crank it up, John.
Stand up, I get gone. Gotta hit that curve real strong.
I love this, man. Got Lyle Phillips spitting hot fire. I did not know you did this, and we did some research before the show, and I was like, this is fire. I like it. Let's add it in the mix. So, Lyle and Allison, welcome to the podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey, we're doing awesome, man. I can't believe you guys dug that up.
That's all John. I didn't even know it existed.
Oh, man.
He's
it's
like,
so good.
Oh, man.
He's like, is this Lyle? It's like, yeah.
That is me. That was a dream of mine.
Really?
It came through a few years ago.
Come on.
I always wanted to be on a hip-hop album.
Okay.
And one of my friends here in Nashville, he's a youth pastor and also
Right
a
on.
rapper.
Okay.
He invited me to be a part of a song.
Come on.
I didn't know it was going to make the cut
Yeah.
and make it to the album, but it did. And
Come
now
on.
I can tell people, Spotify me, bro.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Who do they look for? What's the album? What's the name of the track?
The name of the track is I Must Go Wild.
Must Go Wild.
I Must Go Wild. So if you just put in my name on Spotify or
Come on.
I Must Go Wild.
All right. We'll throw it up on the screen later so whoever's watching can see it. Yeah. Go
Oh
check
my
it out.
God.
It's awesome. I'm excited. That was fun. We do that to our guest. We mess with him a little bit. But that was really good. I was like, this is crazy. I did not know this about Lyle.
Oh, man. I'd love to do more hip-hop.
There you go.
Honestly, I would because I think it would be super fun.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing stuff like that. But, you know, the time.
Yeah. It takes a lot of time. Yeah. So if you're listening and you like what you heard,
Yes.
give Lyle a shout and then make more magic happen. So for those who are watching, who are just getting introduced to you and maybe are not familiar with what you're doing, would you just share kind of what you would want people to know about you? And you guys introduce yourself and what are you doing right now? What's in your heart? Both of you take a little bit of time to do that. Go ahead, guys.
Sure. Well, I'm probably going to be decent at sharing all of the activities that we're doing, but I think Allison's probably going to be better at sharing the heart behind all of those activities. So I'm going to push it to her and let her respond first.
Wise man.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, what we have the privilege of doing is we are church planters here in Nashville. We pastor a church called Legacy Nashville.
Right on.
We're about 2 years into Legacy.
Yep.
And really our whole heart is, just to be a family here in Nashville, a place for hurting, broken people to find a place to belong and feel loved, and for us to disciple Nashville to Jesus.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Come on.
So that's our whole heart. That's what we have the opportunity to do here. We have a couple of kids.
All right.
So that really motivates what we do in this. And so it's all about family right now.
Fantastic. Okay. Lyle, you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that what she said is really the essence of what we're doing and also why we're doing what we're doing, which is family.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, as we moved here to Nashville, just so you'll know, a little bit of context for why we're here in the city, Allison's a Nashvilleian.
Okay.
She is like a unicorn.
Special unicorn.
Yeah.
Ever from Nashville.
Nobody's ever from Nashville. It's like Hollywood. Nobody's ever from Hollywood. They just moved there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All transplants, right?
Okay.
But actually, Allison is from Nashville.
Wow.
And one of the few. But I moved here because I was a missionary to India and to Africa.
Okay.
But I moved to Nashville to start an Iris Global missions base with Heidi and Roland Baker to really raise up more missionaries.
Yeah.
Because as you guys know, there's not a ton of those either.
Yeah.
So there's not enough.
Not enough. Yeah.
But not enough. And that's why we started here. never fully intended on pastoring a church, but once we began gathering people, we recognized really quickly God's heart for family.
Yes.
And I think it's 1 Timothy 3:15. It's the God's Word version that says God's family is the church.
All right. I like that.
The pillar and foundation of truth. So we kept recognizing through multiple prophetic words, scriptures like those, and just our prayer time that was what God wanted us to do, is to be here in Nashville and establish, steward, and grow a family. So
that's fantastic.
That really is a huge part of what we're doing today.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that it's a theme that I'm noticing as I talk to people from all over. We never intended on starting a church, but we found out afterwards that was God's heart. And it's funny how God's still in the church and he's still working. People talk negatively in so many circles about the church, but God always works in the church. He always moves in the church, particularly when there's a healthy expression of family and community. It makes all the difference in the world. So that's exciting. For people that actually, Nashville is just like a stereotype to them. Nashville is a thriving city that's full of all sorts of creativity, culture, and all sorts of stuff. Like, what's going on in Nashville right now? If we just talk about that for a second. I was just there for Corey and Katie's wedding. Got to spend some time with you guys.
Yeah.
And I spent 10 years just over in Pigeon Forge in the Great Smoky Mountains, where Dolly Parton's from. And so, I mean, Tennessee feels like home to me, but there is something happening in Nashville it's really an emerging city. What's going on there? What do you guys see happening in your city?
Yeah.
Nashville's become kind of an it city.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about Nashville.
Yeah.
What's funny is that I came down for the call, 7707.
Yes, I remember the call.
Gathering in LP Field. Yes. Were you there also? I
didn't get to go to it, but I remember it was a huge ordeal.
Oh, yeah. Everybody was talking about the call in 07. That was kind of running in our circle. And that was when I came down to Nashville and spent time here for the first time. And I can honestly say that since then, in the last, 10, 11 years, Nashville has exploded. The Nashville that was then is not the Nashville that is today.
Yeah.
It's a completely different city. Nashville, by comparison, in 07 would have been considered, to me, more of a small town vibe. True. Although it was the capital, it is the capital of Tennessee. Today, you're really getting that metropolitan feel. You've got the nations, honestly, who've really descended to Nashville in some sense of the word. Yeah. And now with everybody moving here, the population has grown tremendously. I think the metropolitan area, there's over 1 million people now.
Wow, that's crazy.
Not even close in 07,
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's wild. It is funny because I moved there into Tennessee in 2003-ish, and just the dynamic of that entire state has changed radically. And what is amazing is the international community is moving to Tennessee. It was considered, the hills, and you don't go to Tennessee unless you're from there was kind of the idea, but. God's doing something there, and even in revival, because I was with the church for I think 8 years or so, and the prophetic promise and stuff over the territory is crazy, and the nations are coming now. So I'm excited to hear that you guys are established and rooted and grounded. And it's funny, Allison, that you've got your roots there, legitimately. You are a native. That is a rare thing. You are definitely a unicorn in that area. So, and there's something of authority that comes with it when it is your stomping grounds, it is your territory, and you've done life there. There's something about God using people that are established. There's always some type of apostolic partnership that comes in, but God always uses the apostolic and the prophetic to partner with those that are rooted in community. So I love, I've not had a chance to come to your church yet, but everybody that I know has been there and spoken so highly of it. And I love it because, people tell the truth about church once they leave. People act like they like it while they're there, but when they're away, they'll tell the truth. And that's exciting. So I'll kind of move on. I got some other questions I want to ask you and to give you both. I'll probably throw it to one of you specifically, and then you can pass it off.
Sure.
But as far as my idea for bringing husbands and wives on the broadcast is I want to see, and I want the people out there that are listening and watching to see, okay, this is the reality of ministry and marriage in ministry. This is not like one laying down everything so that the other one can have their time in the spotlight. You guys lead together. It's not like one or the other. It's both and you both have, you've got young kids and, I know the struggle. I got 3 kids under 6 right now, and I just turned 32. So and I'm traveling globally, and it's a challenge. Like, you have to learn how to juggle. And a lot of people always ask me, how do you do it? And it's like, I don't really know, but I try my best. What is your philosophy and for life and all of that, and that keeps you grounded in the midst of the crazy amount of stuff? Because pastoring's no joke. Church planning's no joke. You do a little bit of travel, and you're doing some stuff in media as well. And what is your philosophy, individually, together, that keeps you grounded as you go throughout life? Allison, I'll throw it to you first, and we'll go to Lyle.
Yeah,
Great question.
I can high five you for, just having husbands and wives on together and just really exploring what ministry looks like as a whole family unit. That's something for me that is hugely important. You mentioned I'm a native Nashvilleian, so ministry to my city is something I've been dreaming about since I was a kid, know? This city and how I interact with it is so very important. So to marry somebody who values ministry as a family, ministry altogether, was just such a huge deal. But for me, it's a philosophy. I like that you asked that question. I think my philosophy is just connection over anything.
Okay, that's good.
Connection or it's nothing. It's either we're connected and we're doing ministry together, or it's nothing. It's my kids are connected to me and we can do ministry, or it's no ministry at all.
Yes.
For me, ministry to our family. And it sounds cliche, ministry to family first. But I think for us, we're so intentional about that practically working out. It's ministry to the family first. And that means we say no to a lot of things.
Yes.
And we've had to develop through, wrestling and pain, to some extent, a stronger backbone and our ability to say no to the things that don't really benefit the family and don't benefit our kids in this season. I mean, there have been countless times we've turned down opportunities to travel or do other things because it's just not the right season for it. But we understand that the Lord is so faithful in his process that we have kids and a growing church in this season for a reason, and it's helping to develop us into the best versions of disciplers that he can develop us into. So for us, it's just connection over anything. There's nothing we can do without being connected, and if we're disconnected, ministry is going to falter anyways.
True.
And what we build is going to be torn down anyways. So that's just kind of what we feel like. The Lord's given family for a reason, and it changes pace.
Okay.
He probably could run a lot faster without us, to some extent. If he just kind of did the thing himself, and we didn't really want to bring the whole family on the journey. But family sets the pace, and we're just kind of running at that pace right now.
No, that's beautiful. Lyle, you want to add anything to that or interject there?
Sure. A couple things. I actually thought of that word pace as soon as you were asking the question, because I've oftentimes used the analogy of going to Disney with the family.
Yeah, that's no joke, bro. Oh, my goodness.
It's not a game.
Yeah.
It is not for the faint-hearted, right? If you're going to go to Disney with toddlers in the car,
Jesus.
Here's the thing. You may have a plan for how fast you'd like to arrive at your destination.
This is such a good analogy. I was just recently there, so I'm with you. I'm in the car with you.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. But who determines the pace of that journey?
Yeah, it's true. That's so good, man.
The toddlers do. And the thing is that I can get really excited. I'm a visionary, man. I'm a dreamer. I'm a go-getter. I can get really excited about the destination. And I want to arrive at this place, that I'm dreaming about. But I'm not the one that determines the pace. The toddlers are determining the pace. And giving them that power is actually not just empowering them at a young age, but it's also valuing them and letting them know that, hey, look, you matter so much to Dad that I'm not going to drag you along in my pursuit of a dream. I'm actually going to let you determine my pace and how quickly I arrive at this destination, because it's not just about me anymore. You know, we have kids. It's about us now. You know, so pace is a big thing. And to be honest with you, Justin, like that was not something that I felt like had been modeled very well for me. Yeah. And, you know, I have a great dad, man. I have awesome parents, and they're pastoring a church in Owensboro, Kentucky, also called Legacy, that we're partnered with. Yep. Incredible, awesome people. But for the most part, like coming up in ministry and learning about pastoring, it always seemed to me that there was like this man of God figure. And that guy, you know, his vision and his calling is the most important. And the role of the family is really just to support, you know, that vision and that anointing. Yep. And so when we first got married, to be honest with you, I did not know that was my default OS.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't that my heart was in the wrong place intentionally. But I recognized very quickly that when I would travel and go on trips and pursue ministry, that it was causing us to disconnect. And at first, I don't know that we recognized it, but the more and more we continue to do it, we realized, man, we're not really doing this together. It's more so me making decisions on what's best for the ministry, or what's best for the anointing or the calling or the vision that I feel like I have from God. But it really wasn't bringing my family along on the journey. So what I've learned to do, and you know, just to kind of wrap up, I guess, my perspective on that philosophy, is to slow down.
So good.
You know, if you arrive at this destination that's so glorious, but you have to leave your family in the dirt there, you're unsuccessful. Really,
it's a failure. Yeah, on all points, it's a failure. It's good to hear you guys acknowledging this early on. I mean, it's you're relatively young. You're about my age. We're in the same range there, and we got young families, and we're doing this. And it's not that I don't think it's that the previous generation did it on purpose. I think that you get in these situations, you get pulled in ways you never imagined that you'd be pulled, and sometimes you don't know your weak points until you see a crack or a fracture, and you're like, man, I got to deal with that, or there's gonna be a break. And I love that you acknowledged it and you made every effort to adjust it ahead of time. Most of the time people are like, oh, just endure this. And I think this is the mentality that within ministry culture that we've developed is, you know, just hold on for a little bit longer. Well, that little bit longer turns from 6 months into 6 years into 12 years. And then before you know it, you have deep issues in your marriage. Your kids hate you. Your church members don't even like you. And you've been sacrificing everything ultimately for nothing. And we're making sacrifices God didn't ask us to make. And it's like we have this presupposition that it's going to cost me my family. And one beautiful thing about emerging revivalists in this generation of, you know, 20, 30 somethings that are coming up is I think they're just not willing to pay that price because they're the byproduct of some of that. You know, you want to get a real perspective on the church. Talk to a PK, talk to a preacher's kid, and you're going to know like what it's really like. And I just am not willing to reach the nations and my kids hate me and my wife not like me. You know, like it would be great. People getting out of wheelchairs, but my wife can't stand me when I walk in the house. There's a problem there. In Malachi 4:6, in the last days, he's going to restore the hearts of the children, the fathers the children. So it's the kingdom is family is a kingdom. I'm stoked about that. I love it. So it's connection, it's family, it's your pace. That's such a strong word. So encourage you that are listening and that hits home. Just adjust your pace. The kids set the pace. As a pastor, like I'm very driven. So I'm always feeling like I should have been somewhere like 2 weeks ago. And when I'm here, I'm like, man, I really need to be 2 weeks ahead. So like really the timing of the Lord and the cadence of the Lord and recognizing that, hey, he's got me where he wants me and like to fully just drink every moment to the last drop and see what is God doing here.
You know, also, Justin, I would say that if you're somebody who is that fast-paced person, like have some grace on yourself if you're trying to slow down. Because I acknowledge that a part of my identity is tied to, you know, what I do, right? Like, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's like I identify myself with what I do because I am an achiever. I'm more of a driven type personality. So it's important, like you said, if there is somebody listening who's like, man, I need to move at a slower pace, like have some grace on yourself if you are not that person, if you're the person that's like, dang, I wish my husband or my wife would slow down, like have some grace on your spouse, because for them to slow down is way harder than you think it is.
It's excruciating sometimes.
It's very painful because people who are constantly dreaming of things to accomplish, and that's just the way that they're wired. That's a gift from God.
Yes.
So for them to slow down a little bit and develop the fruit of patience is not always easy. It requires time, you know. So just want to say, like, if that is you, man, like, there is grace for the race.
Yeah, grace for the race.
Slow down, you know.
Yeah, no, it's true. My wife and I, we're very different personality-wise. We work amazing as a team. But I'm this past season of my life, the past 6 months, I was traveling like 15 days a month, which I have 3 children under 6, which is a lot. But for me and my pace was the first time I felt like I was running the way I was made to run. But my wife is the opposite. My wife is like, she's kind of a homebody, and she loves to be home with the kids, and that's part of who she is, and she's a slower paced individual. So our marriage and our walk together has been this dance of me respecting how she's made and her respecting how I'm made, and even understanding, like, if we're geared that way, there is a pace in which we run together. And then also with the children as well coming into the mix, because it's different with one child, it's different with 2 children. You add all these new people into the mix, and you have to respect them, and their little personalities are different, you know, like some of them are fast, and it's like finding out how can I do everything that God's given me to do in a way that is honoring to my family. And it's been cool. So I love that you're talking about respecting pace. So, you know, and when my wife and I have learned, and I'm not going to say it's been easy the entire time, but like we figured it out, and there's been such a grace in this season that, like, I'm able to fully respect, like, things that used to drive me crazy, because I was like, I feel like we're going so slow. And then when I would be happy, she'd be like, I feel like I'm going to die. You know, there's got to be a happy medium. And I love that you guys, like, just allude to it. So I want to use that to segue into this. So it's like philosophy, core values of life, but then there's marriage. Like, you know, like, we're not in the nursing home, like, no offense if you're in the nursing home watching or listening, but like, we're young, like, you know, like, there was a time in our lives that we didn't have kids and we didn't have all the responsibility. How do you keep marriage fresh and real? And like, how do you guys date in the midst of being pastors? And like, it's funny because people think like, oh, you're a man of God, a woman of God. It's like, no, I still love my wife, and my wife still loves me, and we got to make time. Like, how do you guys steward marriage in the midst of ministry? And what are some of your things that are like pillars for marriage? Because that's what I want to go after. What's you guys' secret to success or sustainability in marriage?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that we would have any good secrets aside from the fact that we go to counseling. We go to marriage counseling on a schedule.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I mean, so we didn't start going because we were having some major dysfunction in our marriage. We started going because we recognized that our pace collectively was so fast that we would often not have the opportunity to slow down long enough together without the kids, without the ministry, without people we were discipling or pouring into, and just get real vulnerable with each other, have some help available. We needed to process through some challenging heart stuff, and then just go on a deep dive on a schedule with one another to make sure that our connection was as strong as it could be.
Yeah, no, that's so good.
I know not everybody's like keen on that, like going to counseling, but it's if you can sort of remove the whole idea that we're going to get help, and I mean, you are getting help, but
let's act like we don't need help. I need help. Let's be honest. Like, help me. Somebody help me. You know, like, that's okay to ask for help, and even if it doesn't mean something's wrong, it just means that you've not been this way before. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, brother. We all need it.
Yeah.
You know, and in our marriage counselor, his name is Dr. Glenn Hill.
Okay.
And to be honest, he's probably one of the best marriage counselors that I've ever met, heard about, because he's not only a PhD counselor, but he's also a sexologist.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah. We need to throw a sound effect in there somewhere. And that's another thing too. I mean, that you talk about. People are scared to death to talk about sex within ministry. It's like this faux pas, but that's generally where, when the stress comes, that's where failure happens. And it first happens behind closed doors, if we're being very honest, and people get really nervous, and it's like a lot of people are sweating right now because they're listening to this around other people. And it's like, oh no, but like that's a real part of life. And the pressures of ministry pull at that. The pressures of being a parent pull at that. The pressures of life pull at that. But you have to be intentional about that, and particularly with the stresses of life. Talk to that a little bit.
Yes.
Well, I'll share about this since I brought it up.
Okay.
I don't want to embarrass you.
No, I can share about it too. Don't embarrass me.
But, one of the things that we're encouraged to do often by Dr. Glenn is to have what he calls sex dates.
Okay.
And basically that's just a 4-hour window that is completely secluded from kids, from events, from church.
Okay.
That's just about us.
All right.
It's just about our connection. And, obviously it includes sex. It includes physical.
Obviously. It's in the name, right? Yeah.
It's in the name. But it's more than just about, having sex. It's just not just the act of that, but it's about connecting.
Yes.
And so that's something that I think that for us has proved to be key in the midst of the busyness of ministry.
All right.
And it really kind of revisits what we talked about from the beginning, is letting the connection be the foundation. And making sure that several times a week, if not many times a week, and if we can, every day of the week, connecting, talking, blocking everything else out to share our hearts, our feelings, our emotions with one another, as well as sex dates. Yeah. So there's
there are many people that would be on board with this idea. I think they're like, yes, you're going to start new dialogue within marriages. But it's good. We forget that that's a covenant act that God gave us as husband and wife, as part of not just on a physical, a spirit, body, soul. It's how we connect. It's how we stay. It's one flesh, yes, but it's also one in spirit. Like that, God is looking at us as one, and there are benefits connected to it. And what you forget, and ministers listening to this, like this, the wheels are going to start turning and things are going to start clicking. But when warfare happens in your life, I promise you that's going to get hit really quickly. Or the warfare, it may be not as intense, but if that's out of alignment, it will feel like a lot worse than it is. And God has given us these things, these weapons in our tool belt, if you will, to defend against attack. And attack is coming on the home front and on the family, just for the record. So if you think it's not, you're deceived. So you need to make sure above all things, it's not necessarily going to come externally from your ministry. It will come. The devil, he fights dirty. He's not okay. So I encourage you to take, Lyle's advice, and whatever that looks like for you, and whatever that, it'll look different for everyone. But you have to be intentional. When you're not intentional about it, that's when the rug will get swept out. Allison, you look like you had something else to say there. I'm going to let you jump in.
Well, I think, it's funny because we definitely, we don't shy away from the topic in the least. Our church, kind of makes fun of Lyle and I. They love it. It's kind of like the way you make fun of your mom and dad for talking about things that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But, are true. But the reality is for us, being on this journey in ministry and in finding what it looks like to build a healthy family in ministry is tested, what our belief system is about the family in general. And so to have a sounding board like a counselor who's healthy and loves Jesus and really can point us in the right direction towards processing those experiences together has been super helpful. And for me, I grew up not a PK. I have grown up a Christian, in a Christian house my whole life and loved Jesus for the majority of my life. And but one of the things that I feel like I missed out on learning in a Christian context was how to actually process my emotions and actually process how I feel. I don't think that the Christian culture I was a part of was intentional about pushing emotions aside. Or saying that they were wrong, but I think my understanding or my belief system was that emotions are not the truth. And in a lot of ways, emotions are, we don't make decisions out of our emotions, but emotions happen to us, and how do we process those things? And especially in relationship, figuring out how those emotions are either pulling us closer to each other or pushing us away from each other.
Okay.
So that's for us, like one of a huge tool was acknowledging what's actually happening on the inside and figuring out how to get it from the inside to the outside, so that we know what's happening, and we get to be actually a team in that process, versus something happening for me and him knowing something's happening for me, but never actually knowing what's happening for me.
We're not clued in. We don't always know.
Like,
we try really hard.
Right? Yeah, we try. I mean, we're prophetic, but we're not mind readers.
Yeah.
Like, we're in this journey of connection, and so for us, that's been a huge tool of just learning how to get what's happening on the inside to the outside.
Come on.
And it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of like trust to do that. But as we've been in ministry, that's been like probably the single greatest helper for us to stay connected, is just getting what's on the inside to the outside.
That's so good. Uh-oh. I hear something. Do you hear what I'm hearing?
Oh, yeah, we hear it.
Tell them what it means, John.
This is the time in the show where we get to know our guest better in a little bit of a different way. We like to have fun on the show, and so today we are going to play You Might Be From the South If. So, Lyle, we know that you're originally from Kentucky, is that right?
That is correct.
Kentucky. All right, so we're going to start off with some Kentucky trivia and then move further into all things Southern.
Come on.
Right?
I like it.
Okay. So we're not keeping score. This is just about having fun. So, all right, question number 1. This event is held at Churchill Downs in Louisville on the first Saturday in May. What is that event?
What is the Kentucky Derby?
Correct. All right.
Hey.
Oh, here's Justin.
Nice way to
He's
start.
got props.
I had to get suited up here.
Nice. Yeah.
Represent.
All right. Question number 2. This is a tough one here. All right. Kentucky governors must swear an oath before taking office. It's kind of a strange oath. What is it?
Whoa. Okay, this is the first I'm ever hearing of said.
All right.
I have no idea.
No
about
clue.
Kentucky.
All right,
Yeah.
this is an odd one, but all right. Before taking office, they have to take an oath that they have neither fought a duel with deadly weapons,
I have heard this,
nor aided or assisted in any person fighting one.
I challenge you to a duel.
Yes, I've heard this. It's still in existence today, right? Yeah.
Odd.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
That just like how awesome Kentuckians are.
There
I
you
think
go.
that goes back to like Andrew Johnson. Didn't Andrew
Something like
Johnson
that,
did
yeah.
something like from Tennessee, and he killed somebody in a duel, and they're like, he shouldn't have been.
Fact check. It was Andrew Jackson, not Johnson, who fought a duel on May 30th, 1806, wounding and killing Charles Dickinson. This event is completely unrelated to the dual oath contained in the Kentucky Constitution.
All right, here we go. All right, question number 3. Bowling Green, Kentucky is home to the only assembly plant in the world that manufactures this make and model of vehicle. What is it?
Whoa.
I know this.
Man, that's a good question. One also that I do not know the answer
Can you
to.
give him the manufacturer?
Yeah, Chevrolet.
Okay, Chevrolet. Man, I'm gonna assume it's some type of a truck.
No.
It's Corvette.
Justin for the steal. Yep,
Corvettes.
Chevrolet Corvette.
The sports car legend made in America.
Oh man, that makes sense.
Yes.
Because the Corvette Museum is there.
Yeah, there you go.
It's
See, this is sad because I actually lived in Bowling Green
Oh,
for
man.
almost 2 years. and
Oh,
I didn't-
no.
You should have known that. Man, that was a gimme.
I know, I didn't know it.
Okay, all right, next question. Surely you know this one. All right, this famous boxer was born, raised, and when he died, he was buried in Louisville, Kentucky. One of the most
Muhammad
famous.
Ali.
Yes,
there you go.
Muhammad Ali.
on.
Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
Cassius Clay.
I
Yeah,
haven't
there
kept
you
track.
go.
How many has he got now?
I think that's like 2. We're not keeping score.
Okay, that's all right. That's
All right, here we go.
2 of 4. I'm at a good 50%.
Yeah,
Here
there
we
you
go.
go.
That's all right.
All right, next question. This factory in Louisville produces a product with the nickname the Devil's Log.
The Louisville Slugger.
There you go.
There it is.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Louisville
Nice.
Slugger, the Devil's Log. Okay. We're going to move on to some Tennessee stuff here.
Tennessee.
But before we do this, when I was researching Kentucky stuff, I ran across some odd things. And I was hoping maybe you could tell me what this is. Have you ever had something called Mamaw's Nanners?
What is this?
Mamaw's Nanners. I don't know what it is.
I'm gonna assume it's your grandmother's banana pudding.
Banana pudding.
Let's have some nanner pudding.
I do have a memo, and
Okay.
it does use the term nanners.
Nanners,
Okay,
yeah.
well, there you go. There was something else called Goo Goo Stew that was supposedly Kentucky related. Goo Goo Stew.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably burgoo.
Burgoo?
Burgoo. Yeah, you could Google that. It's actually pretty good.
Is it like goulash?
Burgoo. It's a stew. So, like, where I'm from, Owensboro, that area, I'm actually from a small village called Sacramento. But there is in Owensboro, there's something called the Barbecue Festival. It
Okay.
happens
That sounds
every
good.
year. It's a big deal. They block off all the streets. People come literally from all over the U.S. to prepare and present barbecue of different styles and forms. So
Sweet.
It's really good. And so Owensboro is known for their barbecue, specifically their burgoo.
Nice.
Burgoo.
Okay, all right.
Check it out.
All right, we're moving on. All right. I'm going to give you some Southern sayings. And I'm going to give the first part of it, and you've got to fill in the blank, okay? So y'all can work together as a team on this.
Doing pretty good so far. I'm
they are.
impressed. This is good.
So, and I'm originally from Texas, so I know all about this stuff. So we got two Tennessee boys,
Yeah.
a
We got
Tennessee
this.
girl, and a Texan. So,
I already know these.
All right, here we
Most
go.
of them.
All right, first saying. If something is just not that important, I might say that doesn't amount to a hill of
Beans.
There you go. Ding,
beans.
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. If someone gets prideful or big-headed, you might say about them that they're getting too big for their
Riches.
Come on,
Britches.
you got it.
britches.
Britches. Oh my gosh.
Okay. If I get really upset and mad, I might throw a hissy
Fit.
There it is.
a hissy fit.
Hissy fit.
All right. If
these are commonalities.
yeah.
These are these are not even hard.
No, people says these.
I say these daily.
yeah.
Now,
Like,
Say it without even
two of
thinking
my
about
children threw a hissy fit this morning.
it. All right. If a girl's really, really good looking, you might say she's as pretty as a
Man, I don't know the answer to this one.
peach. Pretty as
Pretty
a
as a
peach.
peach.
Yeah.
You were
we didn't
close.
say that. We didn't say that in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Probably
that might be more of a Georgia.
Georgia. Oh yeah,
Okay,
it's probably
all right.
Georgia.
Yeah, there
Oregon.
you go. All right, if a person has questionable character or they're kind of shady, you might say that guy's a snake. A snake in the. A snake in the. What?
Snake in the
Yeah,
Snake in the grass. You got it.
Snake in the grass.
You're getting nervous.
Yeah,
Like
I know.
these are loaded questions. What are you trying to get me to say?
No, I'm like the least southern person.
We didn't say that. I mean, we had a lot of
Okay.
things that we said
All
growing
right.
up in the villages of Kentucky. But
Yeah.
Oh, and he says them on Sundays sometimes, and everybody laughs.
I bet.
They don't know what the heck he's talking about.
Okay. If someone's acting really frantic, running around all crazy, you might say they're running around like a.
chicken with their
There you
head.
That's
go.
right. That's right.
Okay. Let's see. If I'm really not interested in what you're saying to me, I might say, "Man, you're just barking up."
The wrong tree.
tree.
Come on. There it is.
Or you could say, bless your heart.
Bless
Which
your
is
heart.
Southern
Yep.
for you're stupid.
Yep. That's not really a blessing.
Yeah, you're as dumb as a box of rocks.
All right, let's do a few more. All right, this is a little harder one. And people
right.
regionally, people say this different. But all right, let's say you're downtown and there's a building across the street diagonally from you. You would not describe it as across the street diagonally from you. You would say that it's what?
Across the way, maybe. That's
That
what I
you could
Over
say that.
yonder.
over yonder.
I said yonder.
It's something that's specifically diagonally across, though.
The description threw me
Yeah.
off. Caddy corner.
Oh.
Catty corner.
Catty
Catty corner, yeah.
Yeah.
Catty cornered.
I've heard these words, but I'm not sure of the definition of them. I just insert them where I don't know what to say. Like,
yeah.
don't do that.
Catty corner.
Absolutely.
Catty corner. All right. This is a funny one here. I hope you get this one. All right. If somebody's had way too much to drink, you might say, "Man, that guy was drunker than."
Well, in Kentucky, we'd say drunker than piss.
Yes. I like that one. I think I'll adopt that.
That would be an acceptable answer. That wasn't the one I was looking for.
I love it.
The one I'm looking for is drunker than, and it's a person's name. I think it's a fictional character, but a person's name. Drunker than.
I have no idea.
Drunker than Cooter Brown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cooter Brown.
But yeah, Cooter Brown is a fictitious character that is just kind of recognized as a village idiot.
Okay, there we go.
And so you'd use that term for just about anything.
Yeah.
Insert Cooter Brown here.
Yeah, Cooter set the benchmark for drunkenness in the South.
For alcoholics.
Yep.
He's a legend.
Okay, let's do a couple more and then we'll move on. Let me pick a good one.
You're killing it, guys.
Okay,
You're killing it.
all right. This is a good one here. What would I be saying about a person if I say he could eat corn through a picket fence?
It's like gap in his tweet.
Oh, man.
Yep, that'd mean you're pretty bucktooth if you can eat corn through a picket fence.
Man, eat, but that's a good pastime though. As a Southerner, you know, my papaw, he used to grow his own sweet corn.
Oh my gosh, I can
you
have
just
some sweet
pull it
corn
right off the stalk and eat it. You didn't need to take it home or anything.
Yeah, it was nice and it wasn't hard and
nope, delicious.
So good. All right.
Okay, one more.
Final question.
All right. If I were to say my eyeballs are floating, what am I saying?
I gotta go pee.
There it is.
Or
There it is.
another variation could be my teeth are floating.
Teeth are floating. I like eyeballs better. That's
Yep, means I gotta go pee.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
You guys killed it. Thank you for playing the game today.
You passed the Southernness test.
The Southernness test. This is
you're the real deal.
I feel pretty good about our answers.
Yeah.
I think I feel like a Southerner today.
Yeah.
you
right,
dominated.
man.
This has been brought to you by Dollywood Theme Parks and Dolly Splash Country. While you're in the Great Smoky Mountains, give them a visit. Shout out to Dolly. Thank you guys for playing. That was fun. We'd like to mix it up a little bit about halfway through the show.
So fun.
I want to move on a little bit, get back into the deeply spiritual stuff. We can mix it up, but kind of shifting back into where we were coming. We've hit the philosophy of life. We've hit core values. We've talked about your marriage and what makes marriage successful and how you guys live your life. But I want to ask this question for both of you. I'll start with you, Lyle, this time. But I want to hit the topic of spirituality and culture because you're not like a typical pastor. And I think the expression of what a pastor or an emerging leader within the church or revival culture or whatever is changed. Like we look different than the people that came before us. And there seems to be a heavy emphasis on influencing culture, heavier than it's ever been, being intentional about the look, the feel, the aesthetic. And you have a passion for fashion. I also do. You wouldn't know it by looking at the way I'm dressed right now, but I love fashion and stuff like that. And you do as well. And culture and music and entertainment and all of that stuff. How do you rectify or how do you mesh spirituality and culture in your life? Like how do you, because there was a generation, let's say, past that was like, you're in the world, not of it. You don't want to look like them. You don't want to dress like them. You don't want to act like them. And just stay away from it because you might be like it. And our culture seems to be like, we want to look, feel, and act and be indistinguishable from them other than the Spirit of God in us. What's your thoughts on that? I'll let you run with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question because something that you just acknowledged there is really the way that I was brought up. Mm-hmm. When my parents got saved, they got saved in a Pentecostal church, a holiness Pentecostal church. So that was a church that had what they called standards. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you are familiar with that term, which basically meant that there were rules that were unbreakable to remain as of the church community. And many of those were in regards to culture. Yes. So music, movies, films, culture, just how you dressed, all of these things were affected by these so-called standards.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they practiced exactly what you just shared, which was, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. We have been called out, so we should be distinctive. We should be different. We should be separate. And so as I got older, I think that my parents even started to see through some of those things and say, you know what? Like, I just don't think these are essentials.
Yeah.
These are extras. These are traditions. These are not things that are really founded in good biblical basis. And so let's start moving and looking beyond these things as supreme truth. Okay. And move on into something else. So with that being said, that really initiated my journey. You know, I was always taught these things were bad. Culture was bad. Music was bad. Movies were bad. All these things were bad, and you should never participate in them. But once I started to find my own way as I came back to Jesus, to be honest, a lot of that is what caused me to wander away from church and religion and church community, because I was like, I can't. Who can be holy?
Yeah,
like,
nobody. Not on those standards.
You know what I mean? I can't meet any of those standards. I always feel like I'm falling short, and this is just not a life that I enjoy, although I like Jesus.
Yeah.
So with that being said, man, like when I came back and like really got involved in church, I realized something, which was this: I didn't know what I liked.
Yeah.
Simply liked what everybody told me I should like.
Yeah.
You know, I was force-fed a steady diet of what was cool, what was in fashion, the movies that I should enjoy, etc. And so I went on this journey, where I said, okay, I'm going to figure out what I like. And I'm going to dress in the way I want to dress. Yeah. I'm going to listen to the music that I want to listen to. And I'm going to watch the movies that I want to watch. You know, kind of an experimental phase.
Yes.
And, to be honest, during that season, I subscribed to GQ.
Okay.
And started reading fashion magazines and reading blogs and getting interested in it, because it was something that I was always kind of suppressed growing up. So since that time, man, I guess to make a long story short, I've really been very open to experimenting, being creative, and being authentic. And the way that I dress, the music that I enjoy. Obviously, you guys played a clip of me rapping on a hip hop album.
Yeah.
You know, I like rap music. I love hip hop music. I love streetwear, but I also like, high fashion and designer clothing. Love film. I'm super interested in artistic movies and things like that. And so for the most part, I've just given myself. Come here.
Hi, Daddy.
This come little one.
Come say hi.
No, I need to.
He's going to the zoo, guys.
Oh, okay. Well, have fun at the zoo, guys.
And if you want to, they're going to the zoo.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, we'll pause just 1 second.
You're fine, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just going to shift to you, Allison, if you have something to say on it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, growing up, for the most part, I was less interested in, I wasn't like a tomboy. I wouldn't say that necessarily. I was just like, I'm middle child, so I'm pretty low key, even keeled. Like I just didn't care too deeply about culture but I had this really deep passion for music. My dad is a musician, a jazz musician, incredibly talented. So my whole life I grew up very connected to the music culture. Obviously, I lived in Nashville.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
Music, my whole life. And so there was this deep appreciation for the arts. I went to school that really celebrated like all of the arts.
Okay.
So I was in, every kind of artistic expression you could imagine, aside from painting. Like I did everything. So,
oh, wow.
So I think as I've gotten older, it's translated into, art in culture and understanding there's this marriage between what is beautiful and the kingdom, really.
Yeah.
Like there is this really, really intentional intersection. And so it's giving people that are dreamers like hope to see the intersection between kingdom and culture, and how kingdom can define culture, but there's something really beautiful about the intersection between arts and the kingdom, and an expression that celebrates the arts in all of its form, and how that really is an expression of kingdom. So I think that's for us, our deep, we have this passion. We have so many artists that come to our church. We have so many people in the industry that we pastor, and it's it's a passion of ours. So it's easy for us to celebrate, that in.
And you can't despise the culture that you're called to.
No, not at all.
But I've said a lot of people do that.
It's sad.
They call to a specific culture, but internally they come to resent it. Yeah. And I just don't think that you have any authority where you don't love.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, I think it is a marker of this generation. I used to get and I still get trash because there's certain people in Hollywood that I just feel like I'm called to intercede for. There's certain, like companies, and there's this, that, and the other, and I feel a strong love for them, and they're not walking with the Lord yet. They don't know that Jesus died for them yet, but they're gonna find out one day. And I'm not afraid to love them before that exchange happens, because we've been given a ministry of reconciliation, right? I liken it to this. So, like, we're talking about the young prophets. That's the theme for this. So, prophetic people, they foretell, they forthtell. So they forecast what's going to come. They let you know what it's going to happen, what is going to happen, or they see by the Spirit of God what God wants to do, and they partner with that and release it in the earth. Well, to me, that looks like culture and that looks like influence. It doesn't just look like preaching from a pulpit saying, "Thus saith the Lord." I think that some of the prophetic types of this generation are in fashion. They are in media. They are in the arts. They are in entertainment. In like wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, wherever the kingdom is released, there is creativity that is released. We're created in the image and likeness of a triune God who spoke and the worlds were made. He's creative. I mean, look at the world around you. And I love that expression. And there's this liberty and this freedom that, who the Son has set free is free indeed. So it's not like upon, like I'm not trying to hit this list of I'm holy now. I'm holy because of what he did. And it sets people free to be who they are and to like what they like, to like. There's still the context of holiness, but I love that, and I love how it looks. And you'll see in some of the other podcasts that we've been able to do. I've got friends that are actually in fashion. New York City have agencies, this, that, and the other, and they are kingdom people who are literally influencing in places that the church will never touch. So I love that the world is getting on board with that. It's really encouraging to me. And I love what I see in you guys, and it's just a healthy expression, and it's all things done well too. So I encourage you guys to check out their Instagram, and to see some of the fashion and some of the clean and clear expression of what they're trying to do. I love that about you guys. Super cool. Segueing into, we're coming to a close here. Our time has gone by so quickly. I've had an amazing time, but I always like to ask this final question to our guest, and I'll give it to you, Lyle, first, and then I'll let Allison end, and then we'll go from there. But since it's the Young Prophets podcast, and I'm talking to people who hear the voice of the Lord well, I want to know, what's the Lord saying to you about the next 5 to 10 years? What do you see God doing in the earth? What does that look like within your realm of influence? And what's God saying to you about the next 5 to 10 years? Lyle, take us away with it.
Sure. Well, I think at a kind of a knee-jerk reaction, I want to say, like, man, no idea what is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. But I do get that sense, that scripture, it's like, no ear has heard, no eye has seen. Yeah. Like, there's something so good that God has prepared for our generation.
Come on.
And what's coming down the pipe that I think it's better than what we can predict.
Yes.
And, that's my viewpoint on what's next. I think right now there's a lot of conversation around the church and the death of the church and the death of the local church and the death of missions and the death of Christianity, with atheism on the rise and with this new generation, and how, bad they are and how bad they're getting because of technology and, just all of these predictions that maybe the media is making, or previous generations are acknowledging. But I see it just the opposite. I see it growing, improving, thriving, and becoming more and more beautiful. And I see that in every sphere of society and every sector. And that's actually how I feel about it, and so I'm very encouraged by the next generation and what they're creating and how they're utilizing media and marketing and communications to share their voice with the world. And so what I feel like we're going to see happen is I feel like we're going to see people who are empowered to a different degree in society, including children, including women, including people who have previously been marginalized. I see social issues become more and more the topic of conversation because God really has a heart to put the lonely in family.
Yes, he does.
And I think as people are growing more and more acquainted with what they believe to be their true self is, and sharing that, is actually opening up space in their heart for the church to minister about real identity.
Yes.
And we see these people talk about, well, this is who I really am, and I'm telling the world about it.
Yeah.
Some people see that as a being a really bad thing. But I actually think it's not a bad thing.
No.
I actually think it's a thing that it's actually a heart opening that's giving the church the opportunity to talk about identity.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you're going to see, I think you're going to see a lot of young prophets, bro. Yeah. They're going to stand up and who they really are, not who they think they should be in order to change the world, but who they really are and changing the world in the sphere of society that God has called them to. Not doing what they've seen other people do, but simply doing what God has called them to do and what he's spoken to them about in the secret place. So, dude, here's the last thing I'll say.
Go for it. No, I'm feeling it, man.
But I actually think that prayer and that the study of Scripture are going to become increasingly important for our generation, because with so much relative truth and so much opinion and so many headlines getting tossed back and forth, I think there's a grounding that is coming to the people of God, to the church, that is required. If you've noticed, even in secular society, meditation and yoga and spirituality and things that the world is looking for to ground them, the church has the answer to.
Yes, and always has.
and always has. Yeah. But unfortunately, I think the church, in some sense, is almost behind secular society and what it means to be a grounded spiritual person. In many ways, I see yoga classes that are more spiritual than local church.
Oh, man.
And, you know what I'm saying?
Drop the mic, walk away.
Yeah. I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just trying to say, like,
it's accurate.
The world is telling us what they need, and we have the answer. And instead of us just preaching what we think is hot right now, or what's going to get us retweets or what's going to follows, if we can go a little bit deeper and appeal to the identity of humanity without casting judgment, simply sharing love about who they are in God's eyes, I think we're going to see an unprecedented harvest, which is why I'm hopeful about the future, bro.
Come on, man. So I like that.
I think that's my response.
Yeah, no, I love it. Allison, your turn.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
No, it's good.
It's really good. And obviously that's what the Lord's been speaking to us so clearly about, because I would say the same thing. It's just like this new freedom to embrace our true identity. I think that's something that the Lord's really been speaking to me about, been speaking to us about, been speaking to our church body about over the next season. We don't know how long that is, but just pursuing the truth of who we are in the presence of God. And I really do think that's something the Lord is stirring in the hearts of our generation. And I think where we felt like millennials, and I don't know what the generation after
is it Gen Y?
Gen Y, maybe. Like,
I think that's right.
That next generation after us millennials seem increasingly disconnected from entities that feel false or feel fake or feel like they're trying to be something that they're not. An invitation for the church to embrace the true identity of the church in a place of the presence. And so I think it's something the Lord's doing, and it's an invitation. It's not something, I think what Lyle said, like, if we look at it through the lens of culture or media and say, oh, like the church is dying, then we can get super discouraged. But if we look at it as the opportunity that the Lord has placed before us as a place to speak identity and see identity come back to the human through a place of the presence.
Come on.
It's going to be pretty spectacular. So that's what we see. We see the Lord stirring in the hearts of our generation a craving for the real self. The real self in the place of the presence, and the Lord's going to answer it with the church.
Yes.
And we're going to have the opportunity to say yes to bringing that to who God sends to us. So
come on.
I think what God is doing is always relevant.
Yes, it is.
Christians are so obsessive about trying to mirror culture rather than create culture. And what God is doing is always relevant. If you're trying to get revelation about how to be more relevant by flipping through Instagram, you're going to be better off exposing yourselves intentionally to the presence of God and hearing about what the Father's saying, watching to see what the Father is doing, and then doing that as Jesus did. Jesus, he may not have been the coolest person, on social media in his day. he was so relevant because he had wisdom from the age to come.
Yeah.
True.
And no one wants to resist that when partnered with unconditional love and grace and peace and mercy.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, I think that I'm very hopeful that our generation's going to pioneer in this in a new way.
Come on, man. I love it. I love both of your answers. Those are fantastic. Our time is coming to a close. I want to thank you guys for being on the broadcast. It's been amazing. I've had a blast. This has been great. And I want to leave you guys listening and watching with this. Remember that reformers in their day were oftentimes not accepted till after their life was lived. So sometimes the resistance you're experiencing is actually because you're put on this earth to implement change. I want to encourage you. Pay attention to what we're doing. Subscribe to the podcast. Look for us in the days to come. You've seen Lyle and Allison. Go check them out, and we'll see you later, guys. We are out.
Highly favored and so blessed. From pushing weight like a bench press, I'm flying high southwest. Just can't get enough. Every day I'm running back like a running back that's running track with a cross up on my back. My Lord, my God, my King, yeah, my everything. I'm wild for Him on everything.